So let's discuss on introduction to Red Hat Enterprise Linux and command line. So before going to this Red Hat and Linux, I'm going to introduce something on operating system. As you all know, Linux is an operating system. So what is an operating system? It's an interface between your computer user and computer hardware. So when you talk about operating system, it's a software which directly manages a system hardware and resources like CPU, memory and storage. And as we have seen, this operating system manages or it performs all the basic tasks like file management, memory management, process management, and it handles the input and output, as well as it controls the peripheral device such as disk drives and printers. And as we know that Linux is one of such open source operating system. So this is a diagrammatic representation of an operating system. You have a user, there is an application there, and in between there is an operating system which interacts with the hardware. So architecture of a Linux system. So in the architecture you can find in the middle there is a hardware, then there is a kernel, and then there is a shell, and then the application. The user interacts with the application interacts with the shell, and then it interacts with the kernel, and the kernel in turn interacts with the hardware. So as you already know what is an hardware, it consists of all the physical device which is attached to your system, such as hard disk drive, RAM, motherboard, CPU, etc. are all hardware. What's a kernel? A kernel is a core component of any Linux operating system which directly interacts with the hardware. So then what is a shell? Shell is an interface which takes the input from the user and it sends the instruction to the kernel. So in between the kernel, in between the application and kernel lies the shell. So shell also takes the output from the kernel and it sends back the result to the output shell. So applications are your basic utility programs which run on shell, and this may be your application like web browser, media player or text editor. So when you talk about Linux, there are a lot of distributions of Linux, or we can say Linux comes in various flavors. So there are different fields flavors such as, and how these flavors are been identified or it has been categorized. It is based upon their look and feel and how the applications are been interacting with. So the basic system is going to be the same, but the look and the feel and other applications can be different as per the distribution. Each version of Linux is produced by different organization and it is used for, or it has been designed for a different set of users. So some of the examples of Linux distribution are Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Fedora, Debian, CentOS, Ubuntu, SUSE Enterprise Linux, Linux Mint, Puppy Linux and Kubuntu. So here is a visual view of all the different distributions of Linux. There are Red Hat, Mepis, Lunar, Debian. Most of the operating system might be familiar, but few of the operating system might not be familiar since we are not using on day-to-day basis, and it is used for some generic purposes. So what is Linux and how it was designed? So initially the Linux was designed and the core was written by Linus Torvalds, and then a set of program was written by Richard Stallman, as he wrote a few of some new utility program which were combined together, and that becomes your free Unix system, and then it was widely distributed across as an open platform. So when I talk about such Linux system, it's an open source system, and since Linux is an open source system, it has a major strength in computing technology. So most of the web server, the mobile phone, the personal computer, the supercomputers, the cloud servers, which are all are using or they are being powered by Linux operating system. Why? Because Linux has high stability, it is having high security, and it's an open source environment. So what is the duty of a Linux system administrator? So when you have a Linux system in place, there is a admin who is sitting there to manage the operation of the computer system, like to maintain, enhance, create user account, report, taking backup using Linux tool, and use command line interface to interact with the system. So who is the system administrator? So in Linux system, there is a root user. The root user account is also called as a super user account in Linux operating system, and the root user has access to everything in the system. It has access to all your user account, all the home directories, all the file, all the configuration files, and all the files on the system. So the system admin has access to the root, and he is called the super user account. So what is the duty of Linux system administrator? So the duty of a Linux system administrator has been categorized into 7 different points. So first one is installing and configuring server. So what do you mean by installing and configuring server? So it's like if there is a need for printing, so in Linux we need to configure print server. Or if I want to transfer the file through FTP, then Linux has to be configured with FTP server configuration. So there is a need to configure everything we are going to use in Linux. Second thing is installing and configuring application software. So whenever we have to use some application package that need to be installed and configured by the system admin. And then the next is creating and maintaining user account. So user account creation, the access right for user, the permission for the user account, all have been granted by the system admin, because he is the one who can add the user, he can delete and manage all the user details. Next is backing up and restoring files. So if there is a case where the files are been getting corrupted due to unforeseen circumstance, then there is a need to back up the file and to restore the file when in need. So these are the duties done by Linux system administrator, who from time to time will get all the files backed up, and in case there is a failure, then the recovery process is done through that backup process. Next point says monitoring and tuning performance. So most often the system admin has to run diagnostic tools, and he has to install some monitoring tools also to enhance the performance of system. So it's like if there is a case where a system behaves differently, so immediately the Linux system admin has to check that and find out the solution for it. So that is done by the administrator. Then configuring a secure system. So in order to configure a secure system, the admin has to constantly check the user error, some misconfiguration during installation, or if there is a malicious intrusion of some unknown files or unknown viruses which are entering into the system. So that can be has to be detected by the Linux system admin. And next is using tool to monitor the security. So the admin has the duty of installing some specialized tools which can keep track of track of any viruses or unwanted files or any corrupt files which can corrupt the system has to be monitored. So this can be done by using some bug crackers tool, some antivirus tool, or they can protect the system by using some IDS tool, that is intrusion detection tools, to monitor the system. So these are the duties performed by a Linux system administrator. So going for the next concept, that is shell. So as you know, the shell which is interacting with the kernel. So we can define shell as an interface between operating system, kernel, and the end user. So how it looks like, it's a command interpreter that executes the other program. So it provides a computer user an interface so that the user can run different commands or utility tools with some input data, and this shell will execute that and it will send the output to the user on the screen. So basically the shell works on the command prompt or shell prompt. So when it comes to shells, Linux has different Linux shells. So first shell is sh, or we call it as Bourne shell. It is referred to as the shell. It is used to it is mostly used in a single user mode for troubleshooting and in the Linux operating system. And it is also called as the default shell for Unix operating system. But there is one problem with this, because we cannot re-edit any previous commands which we have already executed in the Bourne shell or the shell. So Bourne shell is located in bin/sh directory, and whenever you have to open up this shell, you will be given $sh symbol. So this will open up your Bourne shell or the shell. The next shell comes is bash. So bash stands for born again shell, and it is the default shell in most of the operating system in Mac OS, in Windows subsystem for Linux, and the majority of Linux operating system. So bash shell is a combination of features from the Bourne shell and the C shell. So they combine together, and we are going to discuss about bash shell later on in this slides. Then the next shell is Corn shell. So the Corn shell is also based on the Bourne shell, and one of the enhancement is like the command line editing facility which is being provided in Bourne shell. We can open up the VI editor, we can edit the previous command, and we can start running. And there is a mechanism, and the history mechanism was introduced in this shell. History mechanism is where we can find out all the previously executed commands in the history, and we can reuse it. And you can see Corn shell is located under bin/ksh, and this shell would be displayed only if it is installed. And the command to open up this shell is $ksh. Command to check whether the commands, all the executed commands from the history, is by checking using $history symbol command. Then there is a next shell called C shell. The C shell is having a similar syntax to the C programming language, and it is a very useful tool for any programmer who is familiar with the C programming language. And the shell is located in /bin/csh, and this shell will also be detected only if it is installed. And the command to open up this shell is $csh. Then the next shell is tcsh shell. The tcsh shell is like C shell, but it has number of different enhancement, and it become very popular with C programmers for R&D purpose. So it has number of features which can be worked on with tcsh shell. The shell is located under bin tcsh, and this shell will also be visible only if it is installed. Command to open up this shell is $tcsh. Then there is another shell called zsh, a shell that is compatible with bash, but it offers more of the feature than the bash shell. And this shell is located under /bin/zsh, and this is also visible if it is installed. So command to open up this shell is $zsh. Then there is a next shell called sash shell. This shell stands for standalone shell, and it has only minimum features, means it almost runs on all environment, and it is well suited for troubleshooting purpose. So the shell is located in bin sash if it is installed, and the command to open up this shell is $sash. So if in case I want to check what all shells I have in my PC, the command to do is cat etc/shells. So after discussing on all the different shells, let us discuss on working with the bash shell. So what is bash? Bash is defined as born again shell, and it is the default shell on many of the Linux distribution. So Bourne shell is having a features of Bourne shell as well as C shell, and most of the commands which we are using in the Bourne shell, bash shell, are very user friendly. So it has a command line editor that allows the user to use the cursor key and to use it in a more user friendly manner. The default prompt is the $sign here. The shell is located in /bin/bash. Command to open up the shell is $bash. Then there are a number of different bash key sequences which we can use when we are working with the bash command prompt. So first is Control C. If in case you want to quit a command, you press Control C. Control D is whenever you're typing a command and you want to reach to the end of file, or you want the key sequence to go to the end of file while it is waiting for another input, then you can just press Control D and it will start displaying the secondary prompt, that is the less than symbol. Then you have Control R. The Control R feature is for reverse search feature. It opens reverse iSearch prompt, and this feature helps you to locate what all commands you have used previously. So that will be done by using Control R to check the search of what all commands you have executed in earlier. Then Control Z is used to stop a command. So if the command is executing and you want to just stop it but you don't want to terminate, then you press Control Z. Then you have Control A. Control A brings the cursor to the beginning of current command line. So if I am typing a command, I want to move it in the first position, I'll press Control A. If I want to take the cursor to the end of my command line, then I'll be pressing Control B. So that is the role of Control A and Control B. And already I have told you about history. The command history will be able to display all the commands which you have used earlier. So by default, at the last 1000 commands a user has typed or used, that commands can be remembered by this history command. So history command allows you to move up and down, and it allows you to navigate through all the list of commands which you have typed or used previously. And if in case I want to repeat the same command, I will be using a exclamatory sign followed by the number of the particular command. And there is another thing called .bash history. So here is where actually the entire history, .bash history, is actually a directory or it's a file actually which is containing all your commands which are displayed in the history command. So every user, whoever is been added as a user, will have such a file, and it is stored basically in the home directory of the user. Since the name of the file begins with the dot, it shows that it's a hidden file. So all the hidden files starts with a dot, and normal user cannot see such hidden files. So if I use Control-C, then all my history would be deleted. So here is one of the example of such kind. So here's, since this machine is a Debian OS, so it's having Paul at Debian, and you can see in the prompt I have defined history, and along with the history I have defined 10. So this 10 defines I want to list the 10 entries at the time. So here it is displaying me from 38 to 47, and it is showing me these are the last 10 commands which I have executed prior, and it is showing me. So here, if in case I want to go and check what is the command which is there in 43, so I'll be just giving exclamatory 43, and you can check it is a ls command. So exclamatory 43 will just again execute that same command. So 43 is ls command, and it is listing out all the files in that particular folder. So when you talk about Linux, there are different files and directories. So first we will see what is working with directories. So in Linux there is a hierarchy structure for directory. Initially there is a slash which we call as root directory, and the root directory is followed by a number of different other directories. So there is a user directory, temp directory, bin, development, etc, home, lib, mount, mnt, proc, root, sbin directory. And you can just see user commands are all executed in user directory, password are executed or kept in etc directory. All the users who are added are stored in the home directory. Sbin stores all the binary commands under sbin. So where to find out all these directories? So when you run your operating system, under the places there is a menu called computer and select file system. When you click on this file system, it will display all the directories under the root directory. So there is bin, boot, etc, home, lib, loss found, media, mnt, opt, sbin, se linux, sys. So it will list out all the directories in under the root directory. So does the bin directory. The bin directory contains command file for use by the system administration or other users. And the bin directory is basically the directory which doesn't contain any subdirectories. Second directory is boot directory. The boot directory is actually where you are storing all the files related when you are related to booting the system. So all the files which will interact with the system, or when you start the system, automatically the bootloader programs launches, and this contains kernel and the core operating system code. That all is stored in the boot directory. Then this directory contains the files and information about devices, and it also contains hardware and software devices on the system. So that details are stored in dev directory. Then comes home directory. The directory contains directories of user on the systems. The subdirectories of the home will be named for the user to whom they belong. So under home directory you can find out all the subdirectories of number of users who have been logged, who have been registered under that particular system. So it might be user 1, user 2, and each will have their separate directories under home directory. Then you have lib directory. This is a shared system file, and it is contained in this directory and its subdirectories. So it contains system files and kernel modules which are shared, and it is stored in lib. Then there is another directory called root, which is not like that of slash. Slash is your root directory, but this is a home directory of a root user. So we call this also as root, but basically the root user will have one of the directory which we call as root directory. Then there is sbin. Sbin are for system binaries used by admin and root user. So all the binary command files are stored in sbin. Then there are a directory for storing all the temporary files used by system. And then there is user directory. This is often mounted on its own partition, so it contains only the shareable and read-only data, and subdirectories are formed under for all the applications in it. Then there is a directory called var. Subdirectories and files under var contains variable information such as system logs, and it contains the print queues. These all informations are stored in var directory. So all your system log information, print queue, and all details are stored under var directory. Then there is a next directory called mount. The directory is the location of mount point for a temporary file. So if you have a floppy, if you are just trying to insert your USB drive, floppy disk, or your CD disk, then this mnt directory acts as a mount point. Then there is a next directory called etc directory. This contains most of the system configuration files under etc directory. So if it's a networking related files, then all the files you can find under etc sysconfig. So all the configuration files can be found out in, you can find it in etc directory. So these are the various directories of a Linux operating system. So command to operate these directories. So there are different commands we are using. The first one is pwd. So pwd command stands for print working directory. So basically it displays the current working directory. So here I have typed, for example, you can check here pwd, and this is my prompt. The dollar shows that is a shell, bash shell, and I have typed pwd, and you can see it gives me home edureka. So edureka is actually the basic home directory. Under home directory they have created a folder, so it's showing me it's under home edureka. Then the next command is cd command. The cd command is used to change the current working directory. So mostly the Linux uses a forward slash instead of a backslash whenever you are trying to work on the directory. So the name and the command of commands and their directories and everything are case sensitive. Whatever you are typing are case sensitive, so it should be considered. So example, I give cd/bin, so it will be getting inside the bin directory. If I use cd tilde symbol, this also changes the directory to the home directory. So I'll use tilde, it moves to the home directory. If I use cd/, then that changes the directory to the root directory. If I use cd double dot, that changes the directory to its parent directory. So we'll see one of the few of the examples here. Here, as you can check, I have the prompt here. I have given cd/etc, and I'm using the command pwd. So since I have changed the directory to etc, it is giving me that I am under etc now. Then I'll be giving again cd/bin. Now I have asked to change to the bin directory, and I'm checking present working directory is bin. If I'm going to give like this cd/home/paul/, then again I'm checking which directory I am located in. Now I have changed to home paul. And if I'm giving cd/etc and I'm displaying present working directory, it is giving me it is acid. Now if in case I just type cd, so it is showing me the current present working directory. No, it is going to show you the previous directory, that is the parent directory. So as you can see, before etc it was home paul, so it is showing the present is etc, before that the parent was home paul. So simply cd will show me the parent directory. If I am using cd tilde also, then also it will be showing me the parent directory. So the parent directory of etc is home paul. And there is another option where I'll be using cd double dot. So if just check, I have my present directory is user, share, games, and I have typed cd double dot, so it will move ahead to the parent directory. So I'm typing cd double dot and I'm giving pwd. So you can see the games is gone and I'm moved to user, share, that is the parent directory. It forms a hierarchical tree structure like user, share and games. So parent directory would be share. So the next command is mkdir. Mkdir is used to create a new directory. So if I use command like this, mkdir new directory, and I've given home edureka. So you can see here a new directory is the name of my new directory, and I've asked it to create under home edureka. So edureka is my present working directory. So I have typed list command, and you can see a new directory with the name new directory is formed under this command. Then I am used rmdir command, so that will remove the directory. So I have asked rmdir new directory home edureka. So rmdir would be removing that directory. So at then when I'm checking the file using ls command, you can see nowhere I could find the new directory which was created earlier. So rmdir is going to remove that directory. So whenever I'm trying to execute any command, this is the prompt, right? So we have root at localhost and a ~, basically. So if you are logging in as root, you will get the root at localhost, but if you are logging in as a user, you will have user at localhost. So we have username, and then this is the host name. So localhost is our host name, and tilde shows that you are working in the current working directory, that is tilde symbol. So if you are working under etc, it will be showing etc directory. So tilde shows that proves that we are working under the current working directory. Working with files. So when you there are different commands which we will be using when we are working with file. So first is using ls command, that is used to list file. Then we can use rm command to remove the files. Then in order to copy the file, we'll be using cp command. In order to move the file, we'll be using me command. So the first command is ls command. So ls command is used to list the content of any directory. So I'll just type ls, and you can see the tilde symbol, it means it's in the current working directory, and it is listing me all the files which are under that particular directory. So I'll use ls -a, it will show all the files, and it will also show me the hidden files. So if I use ls -a, you can see here it is showing me all the files along with the file name with dot in front of it. So dot files shows that it is all hidden files. So if I want to visualize all the hidden file, I'll be using ls -a. If I'm using ls-l, then it displays the content of directory in different formats. Like I want to display the content of the file based upon their access right and the date on which it was created and everything. So that can be shown by using ls-l command in details. And ls*, which will show me the list of files only in the current directory. It will not show me all the files as earlier. Then if I use ls in the square bracket abc*, then it will show me the list of all the files where the name starts with either a or b or c in the current directory. Then there is a next command called rm command. So when you use the rm command, it is used to remove a file, and when you use this particular command, the file is gone and you cannot find the files either in trash bin or anywhere. So you have to be very careful when you are using rm command. Now the next command is rm-i. This command rm-i, this command will prompt you with a confirmation box before removing the file. And you can also use rm-rf command. This will be deleting your file along with the entire directory structure. So it's if you have logged in as a root and you are using rm-rf and you are giving /etc, so this command would entirely wipe out that etc directory. So while executing this command, you need to be very careful. So f means force and r means recursive. So all the files and all the contents or subdirectory which is located on the main directory would be wiped out. So rm-rf, or you give any file name, that entire directory would be wiped out. So we'll see one of the examples here. So here I will use ls command here, and you can see it is listing me bigbattle.txt, file 33, file 44, synco, dmayo. These are 4 files, and I've asked rm command bigbattle.txt. So rm command is going to remove that. So I have again listed out to check. So you can find out this bigbattle.txt is removed. Then again I am listing the file and I'm using rm-i, and I'm giving file 33. Now -i will be prompting me with a confirmation box. So it is showing me remove regular empty file 33. If I give yes, it is removing that file. And next I'm asking to remove synco, dmayo, and I have given no. And you can see here the file 33 is gone, whereas this file stays there. So at the end I list file 42 and syncode.umi is there. Now I'm going to do is, what I'll do is I'll make a new directory test. So I'm using command mkdir test, and I'm just asking to remove that test. Now test is a directory, so it says cannot remove test because it's a directory. But when I'm using rm-rf test, you can see here it is just executing the command without any warning sign. And I'm asking ls test. Now it is showing me that you cannot access test because no such file or directory. It shows that the entire test directory has been wiped out or erased. So that is the power of this rm-rf command as a root user. Then the next command is cp command. The cp command is used to copy a file which is having source and a target argument. And now when I'm using cp-r, it is used to copy the complete directory. So R forces that you recursively copy all the files in all the subdirectories. I can also use cp-i, this to prevent cp from overwriting existing files. So you use I for interactive option. So if there is already a file available of the same name, then it will be prompting me with the message. So we'll see some of the example here. I'll give ls. So two of my files are there, file 42 and syncode.umio, and I've asked copy file 42 to file 42.copy. So this is my source file and this is my target file. So I said 42 should be renamed as or copied as file 42.copy. I listed it again, so you can find file 42, file 42.copy and syncode.umio. So new file is created here. Then I'm going to create a new directory here, mkdir directory 42, and I asked cp syncode.umio to copy into directory 42. So this shows that this is my source and this is my target. Then I have asked ls directory 42 /. So this file syncode.umio is gone under the directory 42. So it is listing out me that. So when I list this particular file, you can see directory 42 is there, file 42, 42.copy and syncode.umio is there. If I'm using cp-r directory 42 / directory 32. So this shows and that cp-r will copy the complete directories. So you can check here, the entire directory 42 would be copied in directory 33. So you can see directory 42 was having the file of syncode.umio that would be copied under directory 33. So I list out all the files there, and when I'm listing out directory 33 now, so under directory 42 we have the file syncode.umio that is copied under directory 33. Now if I use cp command syncode.umio to file 42, and you can just check syncode.umio file 42 command, again I'm using the same command. So it shows that it is copying without any error message. But in case I am using cp command -i syncode.umio file 42, it is prompting me that whether I want to overwrite this file. Without -i, it will not be prompting me whether I have to overwrite the file or not. So I is used for interactive prompt. Then mv command is used to rename a file or to move the file to another directory. So example, to move the file name, like some file to /temp, I'll be using command move current directory some file to temp/other file. So that will move the file, some file, into temp other file. So I am using here list command. You can check there are number of files under the particular directory. I've used the command move 42 to file 33. So as you can see here, move will move the file as well as it will rename the file. So now you can see here ls, the file 42 has been renamed with file 33, because instead of moving the file, it is just renamed that file 42 to 33. So it can be used to rename the file as well with using move command. So that's the end of this session. Thank you.